1999. This was the year when two major players abandoned the idea of the story-oriented single-player campaigns and focused on what they did best. High-paced action, balanced weapon selection, the feeling that the person you're blowing to pieces is another player just like you. The legendary id Software and the up-and-coming Epic team were not only major rivals in graphic engine technology, but in 1999 they released games with very similar concepts. While Unreal Tournament tried to twist everything with new game modes and secondary firing modes, Quake Arena focused on one thing and one thing only: multiplayer deathmatch. Locked in a small arena with a team of similar players driven by one goal: wipe the floor with the others. This is when the now nearly extinct arena shooters had been born. This concept and gameplay have not aged a day. Excellent maps, great set of weapons, pure action. Even if you get fragged, you respawn immediately and continue the fight. The game's maps draw from previous Quake entries. You can find sci-fi maps with floating platforms, gothic halls, arenas filled with satanic symbols and biohorror elements side by side. There is the same diversity in playable characters. Cyborg-enhanced bodies, exposed organs peeking out from torn flesh, warriors in full armor, a walking eyeball. Despite all these memorable elements, what could be more iconic and defining of the game than the rocket launcher? The weapon where raw power is perfectly balanced with the difficulties of its use. A slower projectile that a keen player can dodge. It requires foresight, predicting the enemy's movements to bring the desired frag at the right place and time. And the beautiful remnant of the first Quake, the rocket jumping. The game's physics dictates that every explosion impacts the player, both in damage and knockback. If you time a jump and a rocket shot just right, you can propel yourself to unreachable places. Even if you take damage, who cares about a few lost HP if it gets you an armor? In the hands of a skilled player, the rocket launcher is not just a weapon, but a tactical element that also represents a new level of movement. That's why this weapon is not only the essence of this game, but of the entire FPS genre. That's why I have to build one. I took the easy way out since I found a downloadable 3D model for the task. I researched the creator and discovered that the model wasn't even meant for 3D printing. It was a rendered creation where the rocket launcher was just an accessory for the character named Orb. Upon closer inspection, it strayed quite a bit from the original model, but I liked what the creator made. It was detailed and brutal. After countless hours of printing, I reached the most uplifting part of the job: endless sanding. Since the final results needs to resemble a metal surface, everything must be as smooth as possible. Hiding the seams is essential for a perfect result. The gaps must be filled and sanded to become invisible. After many layers of priming and sanding, when you already hate yourself for starting this project, when the surface of your weapon is almost perfect, that's when the wet sanding starts. I usually apply the filling primer layers in different colors, making it easier to spot the imperfections. I often mark the areas to pay attention to. When all the sanding is done, the first primer coat can be applied. The base color of metallic surfaces, the red, which in the end will be far less shiny. Finally, the weapon starts to look like what I intended, but if you look closely, it still seems terribly boring. All those small details must be highlighted. What can you do in such cases? Personally, this is my favorite part. After painting a few minor details, we can finally make our weapon much more used. Initially, I apply a lighter shading that slightly highlights the details. This includes grime deposits that the weapon barrel exists, which will give the model a bit more realistic look. This is where it doesn't matter if the airbrushing is not perfect, everything will fit into the final result. Our shiny model quickly turns into a more worn-out workpiece. And time for the real fun, hand painting almost every edge and joint to add metallic chipping. I usually stop here and consider which areas might experience paint chipping. Paint is more likely to chip off edges, but often it's not the sharper edges at risk, but the rounded surfaces where the weapon might hit the ground if dropped. Analyzing such cases helps achieve a more realistic result. Another consideration is the direction of scratches. In the next step, I usually apply black or brown wash. It flows into the edges and gaps, highlighting them after drying. After applying the wash, I had to blend the edges with a brush for a nice realistic look. If you like this video, hit the subscribe button and turn on the notifications. And what is your favorite weapon which you want to see get built on this channel? Let me know in the comments. This is the point when I realized that the creator intended this weapon as a beautiful render model, not for home display. It lacks a practical stand for display purposes, so I had to make one. The best part of such a project is when you can finally grab the finished weapon.